The National Assembly transmitted the reworked Electoral Act Amendment Bill to President Muhammadu Buhari for assent. After addressing reservations on some provisions, while we await presidential assent, some governors and lawmakers are clashing over new clauses in the bill. The governors described the clauses as a booby trap set up by the legislators to whittle down their influence ahead of the 2023 general election. Jide, I thought when the president got that bill and the president rejected it, the president specified that, it was the direct or the direct primary thing that he feels, and he wrote compulsory. And he listed the reason why he cannot, sign that bill as at that time. So I thought it will go to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly will just look at it. Okay, this is a controversial clause. Remove it and return it to the president. But they just go to the House and we start hearing of consensus, hearing of some other things.
No, you see, let's be fair to these lawmakers. They are trying to protect their political future. Governors are behaving as if within the political firmament, they are the only ones who can use power, and they are the only ones who have power, or that even the parties belong to them. Other people are important in a political party. It's like a chain. You can't say the masses, the ordinary man on the street, the ordinary party member is not important. He's the one who will vote for you. You understand? Now, when this whole thing came, the lawmakers wanted direct primary alone. And why did they come up with that? Because what we saw at the APC congresses, when some governors quarantined their federal lawmakers. In order not to be destroyed politically, they then said, okay, now it has to be direct, so that the direct primaries, in their view, will at least be more participatory. Everybody can participate and vote. Everybody will be able to vote. It's like indirect, where only a select few will decide for others. Now, when that happened, the president said, no, don't make it direct primaries alone. Let there be other options. Let there be indirect. Let there be indirect. By the time they took it, by the time those guys were working on it, in fact, the House of Reps had finished work. We then discovered that governors had lobbied the Senate to include consensus. Consensus was not part of the discussion, not part of the conversation. Now, when they added consensus, it was clear that the whole thing had the hand of the president as well. So the lawmakers knew that they would not make a headway. So the House of Reps, instead of even having, the normal tradition is to have the committee of both houses to now harmonize. They said no, that will waste time, especially given the alarm that INEC raised, that this thing was taking too long. The House of Reps now sat down and included consensus. But they are not fools. They will not simply include consensus. Every provision has clauses, sub-clauses and other. So they now came up with, okay, because consensus, in their view, was simply a ploy by governors to be hand-picking people. We saw what happened in Zamfara when Shomole claimed that there was consensus. And Yari said, no, where did we meet to agree on consensus? The stubborn Senator Kabiru Marafa also said, no, there was no consensus. So once those two stakeholders said there was no consensus, and they represent the two factions, INEC disagreed and refused to accept the list that Oshomole presented. Oshomole felt as national chairman, once he gave INEC a list, INEC will accept. But INEC then said no. For consensus to be accepted, all the stakeholders must be in agreement. So what they are trying to do now is to say, okay, for us to agree on that consensus had indeed taken place, there must be written consent by all the aspirants. So if you have 18 aspirants contesting for governorship, each person must write that yes, I agree. That is difficult.
I think there's a calculated attempt to score two all the lofty provisions inside this Electoral Act, because I don't know why. I see if the president because now is hesitant to sign this again, or governors are piling pressure on the president not to sign this again now, where do we go from here? February 18 next year is the election. Are we going to use the 2015 Electoral Act for 2023 general election?
Ayo, this simply confirms what most of us have always observed as prevalent within our political system: selfish interest. So this is not about the governors and the lawmakers thinking about the larger group, which includes you and I, but about how they survive within that ecosystem where there is contestation for power. That's just simply it. I mean, why would a discerning soul, okay, want to go against a clause that says, I mean, if there are 10 of us, let's pen it down and say we all agree that
each of us must write.
Do you understand? Why would anyone quarrel with that? That's one clause. The other clause here is that you should resign
before the primaries.
Before the primaries. So imagine the governor.
So if you lose the primaries, you've not even lost the election. So if you lose the primaries, then you've lost your position.
That explains why the governors are bent on, you might want to use the word scuttle, because the moment they step out of power, that influence that they wield is gone. So that's the booby trap that we're talking about. But the president has no choice to endorse this. We want to make progress. INEC wants to have a clear understanding of what the roadmap is in terms of organizing elections.
If you are a senator, you want to contest for governor, you must give up that seat.
Yes.
That's what they are saying.
And I don't see what is wrong with that. But because they want to be in a position to influence it.
If you be, I know somebody who was a director in the Federal Civil Service who contested for the governorship seat. He lost, but went back to his job. So they don't want that to happen again.
Exactly.
That look, once you make up your mind to do primaries, that position you must give it up and go for the primaries.
So then history would not be kind to President Muhammadu Buhari, because somebody
if he
was
doesn't sign this one again.
Yes, somebody was counting.
We must encourage him to sign. We must encourage him to sign. As things are now, we must encourage him. Do our best to encourage him to sign.
Can't tell me all these beavers that INEC came out with now, that there will be a legal framework supporting it. We throw everything away and revert to...
Oh, it's early days. Let's give him...
I think he has 30 days, right?
He still has time. He still has time. Let's encourage the president
to the president will not communicate till maybe the end of the expiration of that 30 days. If he has a reservation now,
it's very possible.
He may be weighing his options.
He
may be weighing his options. He may be weighing his options, or maybe he decides he is a late decider on what steps to take. So what we can encourage him to do is to not always listen to these governors. Governors are by nature selfish. This is a fact. Look at when the president said, see, I want autonomy for this, I want autonomy for that. What did they do? Before the president will gazette that thing, they ran there. They ran to go and meet. No, don't gazette it. What? Until these people went on strike. Until judicial workers went on strike. So the meanwhile, this is in the constitution that each arm of government shall be autonomous. That the chief judge shall be the chief, shall be the custodian of the finances of the judiciary. So, but this is the president. We should encourage him not to always listen to these people. Let him bear the interests of the generality of our people in mind at all times.
And the very good innovations that
yes, because at the end of the day, it will take the credit that during his time, these revolutionary steps were taken by INEC.
Electronic transmission of this from the polling units.
For me, there are two legacies that Mr. President should be concerned about. One is how he makes our electoral processes,
more
credible. Two, the other legacy he should be concerned is bequeathing a safe and secure country to Nigerians. If he doesn't do that, every other thing that he does will count for nothing.